This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, plus special features and reports with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Good afternoon. Thanks for checking in. If you like it hot, you're going to love what we've got. The hottest day of the year is here. We'll tickle 90 degrees in some spots, but it will not last. More rain in the forecast and cooler temperatures. To end the work week, the DEC in New York, the DEP in Pennsylvania have both issued air quality alerts today due to the smoke from those Canadian wildfires. Elon Musk is making it crystal clear he's no fan of President Trump's self-described big, beautiful budget bill. Reporter Erica Brown.
In a social media post, Musk called the legislation pork-filled and a disgusting abomination and told members of Congress who voted for the measure, you know you did wrong.
Musk's comments created quite a stir on Capitol Hill, with a number of Democrats expressing delight in the post. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries.
Breaking news, Elon Musk and I agree with each other.
The spending package extends the Trump tax cuts and provides more money for border security. White House spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt.
This is one big, beautiful bill, and he's sticking to it.
The Trump spending plan only needs a simple majority to sail through the Senate, but several Republicans, including Kentucky's Rand Paul and Utah's Mike Lee, have spoken out against it. President Trump has doubled the tariff on steel and aluminum imports. That 50% tax will mean higher prices for you, says business analyst Jill Schlesinger.
Those price increases could make a can of soup, a dishwasher, a car, and lots of other products more expensive.
On Friday, the president will speak by phone with Chinese leader Xi Jinping with the hopes of reaching a new trade deal with the world's second largest economy. Now to Boulder, Colorado, and the latest on the investigation into Sunday's heinous act of anti-Semitism. The wife and 5 children of accused flamethrower Mohammed Solomon are in ICE custody and could be deported. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem.
Mohammed's despicable actions will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, but we're also investigating to what extent his family knew about this horrific attack, if they had any knowledge of it, or if they provided support to it.
Correspondent Sam Brock says the attack had been planned for over a year.
After the attack, authorities were seen searching Solomon's home 100 miles away in Colorado Springs, where Solomon told investigators he hid an iPhone with messages to his family as well as a journal because he did not intend to live through the premeditated attack.
Authorities say the 45-year-old illegal immigrant pretended to be a gardener so he could gain access to a Jewish group at a pro-Israel rally. A dozen people were set on fire. 3 remain hospitalized. The Israeli military shutting down aid distribution centers in Gaza. The roads leading to the humanitarian relief sites have become combat zones.
The Israel Defense Forces says people will be prohibited from entering the centers or traveling on roads leading to them. Hamas officials say over 24 Palestinians were killed near an aid center by the Israeli military early Tuesday. U.S.-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation says it hopes to resume distributing aid again on Thursday. I'm Michael Cass.
The Ukrainian military used underwater explosives today to damage a vital bridge that linked Russia to Crimea. That assault comes just days after an unprecedented attack on air bases deep inside Russia.
How about this? 2 stinging attacks against Russia in just 2 days. And like those stunning drone strikes against President Putin's long-range bomber capability, this latest operation targeting a crucial bridge was months in the planning, Ukraine says. And it's the 3rd time the bridge has been hit.
Correspondent Keir Simmons says the clandestine operation will likely interfere with Russia's military supply lines. Over the weekend, Ukraine hid drones in the back of trucks and then detonated them by remote control near air bases all across Russia. A tornado touched down last night in Lee Summit, Missouri, flash flooding causing water woes throughout that Kansas City suburb. Reporter Gabriela Hernandez.
People walking through here, at least attempting to, had water all the way up to their waist.
We've also seen multiple cars abandoned.
Several semi-trucks were overturned on highways in and around KC. Shaq Brewster at NBC.
Heavy rains turning roadways into rivers. In Missouri, sirens warning residents to take cover.
The twister was spotted not far from Kauffman Stadium, which is home base for the Kansas City Royals. The Trump administration is rescinding a Biden-era policy that required hospitals perform emergency abortions. That policy was required even in states where abortions are illegal. The White House says it will no longer enforce the policy. Pro-life groups are applauding that move. More seniors than ever before are using marijuana. Pot use among those 65 and up has doubled since 2021.
People think wrongly it's just as bad for you as cigarettes. It actually is in terms of its damage to the heart and lungs.
Fox News medical contributor Dr. Mark Siegel says marijuana increases the risk of heart disease, stroke, dementia, and even cancer.
People are going to the ER with psychosis. They're having car accidents. We are studying Colorado ever since it was legalized there, and the results are not pretty.
7% of senior citizens are using marijuana on a regular basis. Women are using it more than men. 39 states permit pot for medicinal or recreational purposes. History made Tuesday at JFK Airport. An all-electric airplane made a successful landing with passengers on board.
Airlines are looking to develop services using electric battery-powered aircraft that can take off and land vertically to ferry travelers for short city trips. And Beta Technologies has become the first U.S. company to land an all-electric aircraft carrying passengers at JFK Airport. Founder Kyle Clark.
The most transformative thing is that you drastically reduce the cost of flying. Charging this thing up and flying out here costs us about $8 in fuel, right? Of course, you have to pay for the pilot, you got to pay for the airplane, but fundamentally it's way less expensive. It's quieter, so the communities are happier.
He says the air taxi flew 70 nautical miles in 35 minutes.
CBS's Matt Piper says 4 passengers and a pilot made the journey from Long Island to Queens in that first-of-its-kind flight. Still to come on the Noon Report, searching for Zygay, smoky sunshine, and salmonella at the grocery store.
This is meteorologist Ken McKinley. Very warm as we head through this afternoon. Temperatures in the 80s with a good deal of sunshine. A bit more unsettled over the next couple of days. Complete forecast details are coming up in about 10 minutes.
All right, Ken, we'll talk then. The New York DEC and the Pennsylvania DEP have both issued air quality alerts today. It's because of smoke from those Canadian wildfires thousands of miles away. That smoke has drifted into our atmosphere. It will remain high enough, though, so as not to be any real threat. But those of you with compromised immune systems may want to limit your time outside today. It's now a recovery operation in Rochester, New York. The search goes on for that 5-year-old boy who fell from a bridge and into the Genesee River back on Sunday.
We're just trying to locate Zygay and bring him home and get some closure to the family.
Rochester Police Chief David Smith says Zygay St. Pierre was with his mom on the Andrew Street Bridge when he lost his footing on a railing and went into the water.
Our search has not ended. We will continue to utilize all of the technology and resources at our disposal to find Zygay.
The chief says high, fast-moving water with zero visibility is complicating the recovery effort. The boy's mother was pushing another child in a stroller when that 5-year-old ran off and out of sight. Rochester Mayor Malik Evans.
Tragedy like this can happen to any of us. We just really ask for prayers. Remember the mom and what she is going through.
Red balloons now line both sides of the Andrew Street Bridge in honor of little 5-year-old Zygay St. Pierre. Groundbreaking for the brand new Micron plant in Clay, New York is being pushed back yet again. Onondaga County Executive Ryan McMahon says an environmental impact study will not be done until October at the earliest. That means construction on the computer chip plant will not happen until late November or early December. The project is expected to land 50,000 jobs in central New York over the next 3 decades. Tainted tomatoes and contaminated cucumbers could have been sold recently at grocery stores in Pennsylvania.
Health officials are warning consumers in western Pennsylvania about a salmonella recall involving tomatoes and cucumbers. Ray and Mascari Incorporated recalled 4-count vine-ripe tomatoes sold at Gordon Food Service stores in western Pennsylvania. The tomatoes may be contaminated with salmonella salmonella and should be thrown out immediately. Meanwhile, the FDA is investigating a multi-state salmonella outbreak linked to cucumbers grown in Florida and distributed to multiple states, including Pennsylvania. Target is among the retailers recalling affected cucumber products. No illnesses have been reported so far. Brian Query, Family Life News.
The Pennsylvania state budget is due at the end of the month. Most expect it will be late again in Harrisburg. Senate Majority Leader Joe Pittman says the governor's more than $50 billion spending plan is not fiscally responsible.
At the end of the day, the taxpayer cannot bear the expenses that he has proposed in his budget. We can't afford it all.
Governor Shapiro wants marijuana legalization and expanded gambling to help pay for many of the spending items included in this year's budget blueprint. Tensions between New York Governor Kathy Hochul and Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado are simmering now that Delgado is actively campaigning for Hochul's job. It's got a lot of state Democrats wondering who will they endorse in next year's primary. State Senator Jeremy Cooney is all in for Governor Hochul.
I believe Kathy Hochul is the best choice.
No one's getting my endorsement. I think there's plenty of time.
Fellow Democrat Pat Fahey says a primary election is a good thing for the party and for the state.
This is healthy because we need to sharpen that message. We know the message last year fell flat.
Political pundits are not sure if Delgado will run to the left or right of Governor Hochul, who is underwater with the voters. A recent Siena poll shows 55% of New York voters want someone other than Kathy Hochul to run for governor next year. A new report card on the state of teaching in the state of Pennsylvania gives the Commonwealth a poor grade. Penn State professor Ed Fuller says the teaching shortage problem is a growing problem in PA.
Not in every subject area and certainly not every school or every school district. They simply can't find enough fully certified teachers for the classes that they need people to teach.
Last year, nearly 10,000 teachers left the profession, leaving the attrition rate at nearly 8% statewide. That's an all-time high. Pennsylvania's tried to ease the shortage by offering stipends to student teachers. Serious threat to school choice moving through the Pennsylvania state legislature. It's called House Bill 1500, and it would slash funding for cyber charter schools by 40%. School choice activists say this would jeopardize the education of over 60,000 students. Cyber charters, by the way, are tuition-free public schools that are privately run. New York's new bell-to-bell cell phone ban at school takes effect in September statewide. It's designed to promote a distraction-free learning environment. But how that will be implemented is still a matter of much debate.
Students don't want to give up the ability to have that contact. There's some convenience pieces of having a cell phone, and even some academic purposes that students have shared with us, but also there's a little bit of that safety connection, safety blanket feeling, right?
Elmira Heights Superintendent Mike Gill tells WENY-TV.
This is not optional for us because it is state law. But what is optional is how we're going to find our way through it. So one of the options could be that they could have it on them, but just not have use of them.
New York is the fourth state nationwide to implement an outright ban on cell phone use at school. Pennsylvania's new distracted driving law takes effect tomorrow. It makes it illegal to text or talk on your phone while operating a motor vehicle. Johnstown Police Chief Mark Britton says digital devices can be deadly on the highway.
We're used to using them all the time. They give us constant information. The reality is when you're driving a vehicle, you're really driving a heavy object that has the ability to seriously injure or kill people.
Officials say for the first year of the law, cops will issue warning citations. Fines will be doled out starting next year. Sports next. It's the 2-minute drill right here on the Family Life Noon Report.
Good afternoon, I'm Randy Snavely. Bob, in a move that has stunned a lot of NBA pundits, the New York Knicks have fired head coach Tom Thibodeau after 5 seasons. Thibodeau led the Knicks to consecutive 50-plus win seasons for the first time since the 1990s, and he took them to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in 25 years. Still scratching my head over this dismissal. On the diamond, the Yankees got home runs from Jazz Chisholm Jr. and Anthony Volpe, and they edged the Guardians 3-2. The Dodgers came up big late to overtake the Mets in 10 innings, 6-5. Max Muncy belted 2 home runs. He drove in 3. One of his long balls tied the game in the 9th. The Pirates' Paul Skeens must feel snake-bitten. The Bucks again failed to give him any kind of run support as the Astros shut out the Pirates 3-0. Skeens went 8 innings, only gave up 1 run. Christopher Sanchez tossed 1-run ball over 6 innings, and the Phillies took down the Blue Jays 8-3. Trey Turner did some yard work twice. And welcome back Bryce Harper. In his first game back after missing 5, Harper hit a home run in his first plate appearance. In other action, the Angels won in 10 over the Red Sox 4-3. The Rays 5-4 winners over Texas. The White Sox buried Detroit 8-1. Baltimore 5, Seattle 1. The Twins pounded the A's 10-3. Winners in the National League, the Rockies, Cubs, Reds, D-backs, and Padres. And in interleague play, Kansas City came back from a 5-run deficit to beat the Cardinals 10-7. That is a look at sports.
All right, Randy Man, thank you kindly. Still to come on the noon report, high, hard, hazy heat. Elon takes on the Don, and new Trump tariffs kick in today.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stone Street. My colleague Glenn Sunshine is fond of saying, well, let's not reinvent the flat tire. In other words, we ought not double down on a solution that has definitively failed in the past. Dr. Sunshine's clever editing of the popular saying is relevant to many things, including the recent resurgence of interest in spirituality. Last month, New York Times columnist Ross Douthat, author of the new book, Believe, Why Everyone Should Be Religious, discussed this resurgence on the Ezra Klein Show. The two explored what might be called an emerging neo-paganism, especially from the American right. Among the diverse ideas that are figuring into this new spirituality are concepts of nationhood, colonizing other planets, even magic mushrooms. And among those thinking out loud about it all are some Trump administration officials and superstar podcasters like Joe Rogan. Eventually, this odd mix of ideas will have to collide with the more traditional Christian beliefs represented by figures like Vice President J.D. Vance. It'll be interesting to watch. Now, on one hand, the discussion indicates that there is a growing, widespread exhaustion with secular materialism. That's good news. Across our culture, and including politics, there are many indications of what some are calling re-enchantment. Where Klein and Douthat and many others disagree is whether this new openness to the mystical, the spiritual, the otherworldly will be helpful or whether it will be dangerous. Klein is a deconstructed Jew who's fascinated by so-called mystery and open to all spiritual experience. During the podcast, he encouraged a profound openness to seeking spiritual truth by any means, including psychedelic drugs. He also argued that old institutional religions like Christianity are probably unhelpful, mainly because they're old and institutional, but also because they have clearly traded away any spiritual insight for political power. Douthat, a devout Catholic, had the opposite instinct. He argued that the institutional religions survive because they work. Quote, religion always regenerates itself, he told Klein. Even under conditions where almost nobody is committed to a particular church or creed, people are going to have dramatic spiritual encounters. And those encounters, he argued, have to be made sense of. Only organized religions that take the supernatural seriously can offer that. In fact, Douthat continued, Christianity's the best option. As he put it, God's not out to trick you. Rather, he has revealed himself in history. And chances are pretty low that a California seeker on mushrooms will somehow stumble across some truth that millennia of theologians have somehow missed. And Douthat also pointed out that to open random spiritual doors without considering what might walk through them is naive and dangerous. Most religions, but Christianity in particular, teach that we live in an embattled cosmos with spiritual enemies bent on our destruction. Seek, and you may find something that you actually weren't looking for. In other words, the open spirituality of native drug-infused retreats, astrology, and sexual experimentation is really just reinventing a religious flat tire. After all, paganism has been tried over and over for thousands of years, in fact. and it's always failed in various and sundry ways. Even more, everywhere the light of the gospel reached, those false gods all fled. Going from scientific materialism back to that darkness, that's not spiritual progress at all. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint.
Thank you, John. Outside, Ken McKinley.
Good afternoon. Summertime conditions as we head through the afternoon hours today. Temperatures well up in the 80s in almost all locations. Plenty of sunshine. The sky does appear a bit hazy thanks to smoke from Canadian wildfires getting into the area. Conditions tonight will remain fairly quiet with very little cloud cover, and temperatures are remaining fairly mild, only in the 60s overnight. Tomorrow we'll watch the approach of a cold front from the north. That'll bring some clouds into the area and eventually some showers and a couple of thunder showers for most areas. Temperatures tomorrow not quite as warm, but still well above normal for this time of the year. 70s and some 80s. We'll see showers diminishing as we head through tomorrow night, but the front won't stall too far to the south on Friday, so clouds will persist, and we'll see some more showers and a few more thunder showers with daytime temperatures 70s except 80s in some Pennsylvania spots.
All right, Ken, thank you. This is the Noon Report on Family Life. I'm your host, Bob Price, and here's what's going on Wednesday, the 4th of June. A new 50% tax on steel and aluminum imports took effect today. The White House says the tough new tariffs are in response to trade practices that undermine national security. Those tariffs could impact the price you pay on everything from homes to cars to household appliances. Even canned goods will be affected by the new tariffs. Elon Musk is blasting the president's so-called big, beautiful budget bill.
Musk posted the following: "I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it."
Lucas Tomlinson at Fox News. Kristen Welker moderates NBC's Meet the Press program.
White House officials are trying to downplay these tweets, but I spoke with a source overnight who said that there is extreme frustration throughout Trump world.
The multi-trillion-dollar Trump spending proposal passed the House, but it stalled in the Senate. It can only afford to lose 3 Republican votes in the Senate if it's going to make it to the president's desk. Family members of the man charged in Sunday's terror attack in Boulder, Colorado, are now in the custody of federal immigration officials. The suspect's wife and 5 children could be deported back to Egypt from whence they came. The Secretary of Homeland Security wants to know if Mohammed Solomon's family had prior knowledge of or contributed at all to that heinous act of violence Sunday afternoon.
I don't see how they possibly could have a case for staying here. They overstayed their visas. They should be sent home.
Jessica Vaughn is the president of the Center for Immigration Studies. Police say Solomon pretended to be a gardener so he could gain access to a group of Jewish protesters. He's accused of using a homemade flamethrower to set a dozen of those protesters on fire. 3 remain in the hospital. The Israeli military says aid distribution centers in Gaza are being shut down as roads leading to the sites become combat zones.
Everybody who's had experience with humanitarian operations and conflict zones was warning about this exact scenario.
Former Defense Department official Jasmine El Gamal calls the situation tragically preventable.
Just to see it unfold the way people were saying it was going to, and then now seeing it shut down after people were killed, is just really hard to watch.
More than 24 Palestinians were killed near aid centers. The U.S.-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation hopes to resume the distribution of aid tomorrow. Flash flooding overnight swamped parts of the already waterlogged Midwest. A twister was spotted in the KC suburb of Lee's Summit, Missouri.
Wichita, Kansas, inundated by floods.
Water is just pouring over that car.
Crews working round the clock, making more than 100 water rescues, evacuating residents from their homes to higher ground.
I got my cat and my 3 dogs, and I'm grateful for those.
First responders receiving nearly 2,000 calls for help.
CBS's Rob Marciano says a record 6 inches of rain fell overnight in parts of Kansas and Missouri. Online video creators are using artificial intelligence and social media to bring the Bible to life and connect with younger generations. The videos depict biblical stories, but the characters are interacting with the audiences as if they were posting on social media media. Here's what it sounds like.
Your boy David here, about to yeet this little stone at Goliath and see what happens. Yo, it's Shadrach. This random dude just showed up. It's getting lit in here. You know I'm a daddy's boy. He's got me in this Technicolor drip. Brother's so jelly right now. They're looking a little sus. I would like to formally apologize to God, the sailors, and this whale. Sorry, dude.
There's some debate among Christians over whether these videos actually attract new audiences and generate interest in the Bible, or whether they are disrespectful to the Word of God. As they say, the conversation continues there. Well, June is a month full of celebrations. There's high school graduations, wedding ceremonies, but also teenage organized underage drinking parties, or pop-up parties as they're known. It's raising a lot of red flags. Family Life's Mark Webster is talking about it next on Real Answers with licensed mental health counselor Christopher Anderson.
This is the time of year to be on the lookout for them, especially if you're a landowner who's renting, or families who've got graduating teens or, rising seniors, because this could be a real problem.
We've seen some scary videos, just mob scenes, scary stuff, and a little bit symptomatic, I think, of some deeper societal issues as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. And kind of what we're talking about here in terms of a pop-up party, this is where somebody may rent somebody else's property through a third party. And there's these rental agencies now that you can list your own property through these agencies, and then they match you with renters. Well, what's becoming more and more of a problem is that people are renting these without any regard for limits on the number of people, and they have a party and then they charge admission and this type of thing. And a lot of times it's folks, again, they have very little regard for the property owners themselves or the facilities, because they know that in order to be part of these rental agencies, they have to carry insurance. And so they just assume in their own mind, hey, guess what? The insurance will cover any damage we do, so let's just throw a blowout party. And in a lot of cases, these people who do the renting, they not only recoup their own expenses by charging for folks to come to these parties, but they then make money on this as well. And it's a real problem, because then things are destroyed or damaged beyond repair.
Yeah, some crazy scenes you can see online about this sort of thing. And it brings up a bigger issue, and one label that's been put on that is moral hazards. There's an example given by popular Christian author and speaker Chuck Holton, and it's an economic one, actually, where people take unreasonable risks when they're playing with somebody else's money. He cites the example of renting a car and driving it in a risky fashion because, well, the insurance will take care of any damage and no problem for me or even the car company, but that's not really the case.
It's not, and it's kind of an example of a societal enabling, if you will. We're enabling people to not be responsible, or enabling people to take advantage and just place all the financial burden on either insurance companies or landowners, if it's a property. And you did mention Chuck, and he did have recently a situation on his own property that he rented out, where he rented his property to folks. And again, it ended up becoming a wild, crazy party. Parents may or may not have known that these teens were going to descend on this particular location. And it's not just private properties. These parties, these pop-up parties can happen in public areas as well, with little regard for the property or the communities in which these parties take place. And, you mentioned moral hazard. And again, this is just a common umbrella term where we're talking about people are aware of the risk or of the potential for financial burdens, and they know it's going to be put off on somebody else. So all that does is increase the possibility that people who are engaging in these parties are not going to go out of their way to take care of the property or the facilities. And it's just becoming a real problem in our society, especially with the younger crowds.
Right. You're listening to Real Answers. I'm Mark Webster, along with licensed mental health counselor Christopher Anderson, talking about moral hazards. And we've seen shoplifting mobs, taking over stores with no regard or care, it seems, for any consequences. And like all human failings, eventually boils down to a spiritual issue.
Oh, absolutely. And we know the farther we get away as a society from Judeo-Christian values and where we have at least a shared sense of responsibility for our communities, then the more likely these types of things are to take place. And of course, the next question, not to jump ahead of you, Mark, is what do we do about it?
That was my next
question. And how about it was. And, if you're a parent with teenagers or soon-to-be teenagers, be aware that this is happening. Set the expectation for your children right away, as well as lay out some consequences if your children are involved in these types of pop-up parties or other moral hazards, like you mentioned, smash and grab type robberies and burglaries of stores. Make sure they're aware of what's going to happen. You have to be really clear to your kids. And of course, as you can start real early in teaching your children children the moral responsibility towards not only their families, but also their communities. They're preparing them ahead of time to make better decisions the older they get. But it's never too late to start. We'll just put that out there too. If you feel like as a parent you could have done more, well, hey, listen, the past is in the past. You start right now. Start communicating with your teens. Make sure you're aware of what you can do of implementing some serious consequences if in fact your children are involved in any of these pop-up parties. Be direct with them. Let your children know that you're aware of this, that you're on to this type of a gathering. If your children are involved in any of these types of parties or gatherings, you let them know what they're going to do to help make restitution if they need to.
Yeah, and don't shield them from the consequences either. Eventually they have to learn that lesson that we all do, that the world doesn't revolve around you, and don't do the crime unless you can do the time.
And that is a very good point that you make. We're seeing parents nowadays falsely assuming that their children couldn't possibly be involved in things like this. Well, if you ask any public school teacher who's good at their job, they'll say one of their biggest challenges these days is dealing with parents who refuse to believe that their children can misbehave. Don't be one of those parents.
All right, good stuff there. Licensed mental health counselor Chris Anderson, along with Family Life's Mark Webster, for this week's edition of Real Answers. It comes your way Wednesdays during the Noon Report. You can subscribe, listen to, and share Real Answers along with all our original podcasts at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or FamilyLife.org.
Good afternoon. Summertime conditions as we head through the afternoon hours today. Temperatures well up in the 80s in almost all locations. Plenty of sunshine. The sky does appear a bit hazy thanks to smoke from Canadian wildfires getting into the area. Conditions tonight will remain fairly quiet with very little cloud cover, and temperatures are remaining fairly mild, only in the 60s overnight. Tomorrow we'll watch the approach of a cold front from the north. That'll bring some clouds into the area and eventually some showers and a couple of thunder showers for most areas. Temperatures tomorrow not quite as warm, but still well above normal for this time of the year, 70s and some 80s. We'll see showers diminishing as we head through tomorrow night, but the front won't stall too far to the south on Friday, so clouds will persist, and we'll see some more showers and a few more thunder showers with daytime temperatures 70s except 80s in some Pennsylvania spots.
All right, Ken, thanks for the great work at the Weather Center. And finally today, it's a day to show a little extra love to that favorite feline in your life. Bree Tennis fills us in.
Today is National Hug Your Cat Day. Sounds easy enough, but anyone who lives with a cat knows they don't always like human plans. And many cats view hugs as a form of human-induced torture, which can bring out the claws and leave you running for Band-Aids. So go easy on the hug, but do show your appreciation for your furry companion, who is scientifically proven to be smarter than dogs, just with a lot more attitude. I'm Bree Tennis.
All right, I tried to hug a cat once. Didn't go well for me. I'll just say that. That's our world, the world we live in, Wednesday, the 4th of June. I'm Bob Price. Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.